When I showed up at the practice, I texted him and I said, Mark, I disagree with this. And then about 5 minutes later, I said, Mark, the player's here. I am not kicking that player out of practice. You can come and do that yourself, but I'm not doing that. So we had a great training session. Then you called me, but I just want to make sure that the record is clear of what exactly happened. So at that point, you did call me. I said, hey, she's practicing. Nate did call me later to discuss. I relayed the same thing. I hope that that's what I relayed to you then. Okay.
Peter, thank you for keeping Audrey on the field. She was shielded from all of this for a week, by the way. Tonight you're going to hear from Greg Hartman, myself, which you've already heard from, and many others regarding the bullying and abusive tactics engaged by the Executive Director and Board of Directors. This simply cannot and will not be tolerated. There is no place in soccer or any other community-based organization whose mission involves serving the needs of the community. That leads me to this. The vision of the Evergreen Conifer Soccer Club is to have an executive director and a board of directors that put our kids first and foremost. The executive director will be competent, experienced, approachable, and professional. The players, whether rec or competitive, will be in a safe environment with coaches that train and care for them. The club will have bylaws that mirror the best-in-class organizations of Colorado, and we would turn to CSA for that guidance. The club will remain independent. It will be comprised of players from Evergreen, Conifer, and surrounding areas. The club will attract players and families because of positive leadership, great coaching, and transparency. The community will no longer be fractured. Proposed solution for the successful continuance of Altitude. Club name may need to change. All coaches remain in place. Split off the Party of Castle Rock Club from Altitude. Removal of Mark Burfield as Executive Director for reasons demonstrated tonight. Removal of David Stewart as President of the Board of Directors for reasons demonstrated. Allow their children to play for the club because they are innocent. Remaining Board of Directors either ask for their immediate resignations for reasons demonstrated. If they don't resign, then remove them for reasons demonstrated. Allow their children to play for the club. They are innocent. Allow Jen Bayless to continue to coach. Her kids love her. If number 3, number 4, number 5, then I ask to be immediately restated to Altitude. I would suggest appointing Scott Rose as interim executive director, understanding that he will be replaced by the experienced executive director presented to you over the last few weeks. This person must remain anonymous as he is gainfully employed. Appoint an interim board of directors under the stipulation that there will be a full member vote at the annual member meeting that's supposed to occur in December. CSA to oversee, we request CSA to oversee the successful transition, including the assignment of bank account signatures to either CSA, Scott Rose, or an appointed representative. Have both parties sign an agreement that neither will pursue any legal action unless it has been identified that criminal wrongdoing has occurred. Transition of leadership to commence immediately. That's my statement.
I will address the lady in the back. You have a question?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, can you stand up? And you have to kind of speak
It's loudly. Yes,
Yeah.
I will. Can you hear me all?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Well, my name is Sheldon. That's my nickname. And I don't have a child playing soccer, but I did have one going to A West. And when my daughter was at A West, we played against Evergreen High School. And the bullying, I can really relate to what you're saying, David. You're absolutely right. The bullying has to stop. The coaches that bully, okay? There was a coach, I called Evergreen High School to tell him that Russ Fowler, okay, had inappropriate language, bullying, arguing with the referees. I had to ask the parents from Evergreen High School, who is this guy? This is a coach?
What does this have to do with the AFC?
This has
Because
nothing to
it's
do
the
with
bullying.
Sorry. What does this
Right?
have to do with the AFC?
Didn't they bring up the bullying?
The bullying is correct.
Yes, it does. It does. So then I talked to the principal and he said, well, we suspended Russ Fowler for a game. And I said, what for? Ross, could you tell me what they suspended you for?
Yeah, it was for a violation of the terminology that was put out on a camp flyer.
Okay, so you put down that your camps were mandatory and they made you remove that because those kids cannot afford it. But what about the name calling? Why did you bully them?
there's been no accusation of bullying to me. I really
Well, the
don't see what-
principal told
I
me
really-
that you were bullying.
trying to answer
But what
your
I'm
question.
trying to say is that,
Hold on.
This might be relevant, though.
I don't
Yeah.
believe this is anything.
Very good turn.
it's just that, you know what, he had his term, I would like my turn. I would like my turn, sir.
Everybody stop,
Okay.
all right, stop. I'm gonna stick to my rule. If you get out of order, you can leave the room. Bottom line.
Am I out of order? I'm sorry if I am.
You're not out of order, but I don't think, I understand your point. There's not a whole lot of relevance because it has to relate directly to the club or to the people associated.
What I'd like to
I'm gonna
say,
give you one more minute to
Okay.
make your statement.
all right, I'd like to say that Mark Burfield is, I really look up to him. He is a man of integrity, okay? Unlike Ross Fowler, okay? Because I think what they're trying to do is install Russ Fowler to take Mark's job. And Mark is a good man. He does right things. He's not going to get everything right. No one is, okay? But the bullying has to stop. And
Okay,
if,
thank you.
thank you so much for letting me peace. Thank you.
Where are we moving to next here? Do you guys have any, yes, sir? Would you guys please state your names?
Sure. Clay Thurman. My daughter's Abby, but goes by G when she plays soccer. So it's a weird thing. I didn't know this thing was so off the rails, but I just had a couple of questions that, because I know most of the people in here. My daughter's played for Ross. My daughter's played for Mark. I know Jen. I know Stu. So just some of the questions, and me and you talked at the, I don't know if you remember, we talked at the soccer game out at Dick's, right? It was Dick's Sporting Goods, your daughter? Yeah. So, a couple questions, just real quick, and I'm sorry, but how do people get voted on the board? Is it everybody, if you're a club member, am I a club member because my daughter plays, is that correct? Is that my terminology?
Yes.
How do board members get elected?
So, yeah, you guys go ahead.
So we have an annual general every year. We get letters of interest, and then we put the names on a survey monkey, send it out to the members, and then they vote on the working person.
So I think you mentioned that you never got notified. I've got notified every year. So I'm not disputing. I'm just saying I've got notified every year that they came in. So that's fine. That's fine. I just stating the fact that that's what I get. Okay. So the only thing I don't understand is why everybody's throwing a big fit that if you guys want to be on the board, just put your name on the board. Is that not how it works?
We didn't get through our position statements yet, so. if you'll
Okay, so that's
allow us to
okay. All right,
finish that,
that's
thank
cool.
you.
I just had a couple.
Can you finish our statements?
Well, let's just.
Well, I just had a couple notes I just want to clear up so I can understand.
You
what's
have the
going on.
floor.
Okay.
You have the floor.
The big difference in the numbers that they say 700 families versus 500 is that a big deal? Is there money what's the big deal on that one?
What's the big deal of that?
Yeah.
The big deal is that if they're being claimed to have 700 families, you would assume there's 700 kids.
Okay.
They've only accounted for, I'm sorry?
No, I just didn't answer. I was questioning.
Okay, well, I'm answering.
Okay, I got you. Okay.
So you assume there'd be 700 kids. So we wanted to know, since they only paid for field space for 400 and something.
Okay.
Where's the-
I got you. All right, that's cool.
Okay,
All right, that's what I was wanting. But actually, if you had 400 families, I figured there's more kids because you have multiple kids playing. But I understand. I understand what the complication is because you claim one thing and you're not paying the full dues. I got it. Okay. Got it. You mentioned something at the beginning of your statement. I didn't quite, something about a house at your, beginning house, what was that? A Vale house?
It was a house that was for auction, that the funds, the proceeds were supposed to go to a scholarship.
Okay, I just didn't hear Vale. I didn't know what it was. This is a
Vale
house.
house.
Okay.
Clay, can I talk a little bit about that real quick?
Let me just get through the last couple questions and then, that's it.
And then we'll
Yeah, and then I guess removal from removal.
Hold on. Just for the timing's sake, we're gonna have to make sure we try to keep these to 2 to 3 minutes from now on. So-
Last question, you say you throw a person off the team or whatever it is, you throw a family member out. Is it necessary to, is it necessary to throw the kid out, if the parents, can't you just tell the kid can play and the parents gotta go away? That's the only thing I would say about that. Okay, that's the answer to my question.
Mine will be very So the Bell House bid that referring to was, I'm sorry, I'm not talking about it, I apologize. We had a board member that passed away earlier this year from cancer. And the board voted to conduct a golf tournament in the name of this board member, which is Katie Conway. We had a golf tournament that had things up for the silent bid. One was a bell house donated by a family within that was living in our club last year. The tournament raised right at $5,000 for a scholarship for an altitude player. We partnered with Bootstraps, which is an evergreen company, and they donate 1,000. So the scholarship is going to be a $6,000 scholarship for an altitude player that is in the evergreen conifer area. That's the Bell House. The Bell House was bid on for $1,000, and it was won for $1,000 and paid for. So that's the reference.
Okay. We'll go to you, and then I'm coming back to Greg. Are you next?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
You said how board members give them how Jim Dales and Mark Barton program.
So the board has the ability and the right per the bylaws to add members to the board during the year as they see fit. There is also a general election that takes place in December, and that's where all family members of kids who are in the club have the right to submit a letter of interest and run for a position on the board.
And just to steal some of that response, and clarify one point, the board, the change from 8 to 5, I want to explain that on the current bylaws. Lee Augustine is the attorney who addresses the bylaws, and he's not here tonight, so I'm sort of speaking on behalf of him, he was part of this. But the current bylaws, prior to the change, said the board must consist of 8 to 15 board members. Because there weren't 8 board members on the board, they reduced that to 5. So now the bylaws say it's 5 to 15 board members. Because there's plenty of space left for people to join the board.
And just so I can point this out, I just did make a packet of all the current people who submitted letters of interest for the next year. That's what that was. So I'm letting you know what I just did.
So we have, how many people we have interested in getting board?
I believe there is 8 right there.
We've got about another 4 to 6 that haven't submitted letters, and people have until November 21st.
But that's open for anybody in this room that their kid plays out to.
That's right.
All right, good enough.
Can I speak to that just for a moment?
We've got enough. I think we need to go to this side first, and then you guys are going to go. Oh, great. Sorry, Dave. You were going to go. You're right. No, just go. Go. Now's your floor. Now's the time.
All right. So, the thing with the Vail House, oh, by the way, my name is David Stewart. For those who do not know me, I am the president of the board. I've been on the board for 4 years. When I joined the board, Peter Mason, who is the treasurer of CSA, was the president of Altitude for a couple of years. And he was actually the person who was responsible for hiring Mark Burfing as the ED for Altitude. And that was about 5 years ago. And I just wanted to touch on something. There was a member in the back who stood up, she was talking about Ross Fowler. And it's interesting that Ross is here today. And we've heard through various emails and various people that have been in contact with some of the people across the way that the plan was originally to try to figure out how to put Ross back in as the ED of the club. And I think it's important that everyone here understands something. 5 years ago, Ross Fowler was offered the ED position for Altitude. I was not on the board, but the board said, Ross is here, he lives in the community, let's just throw an ad in the local Canyon Courier, and let's just let him be the ED. And they offered him the position. Ross turned the position down because he was more interested in opening a 20,000-foot indoor facility, and he wanted to run that and thought that that was going to be the income source that he was looking for. So he turned down the position that was offered to him.
Can I just address that directly? Okay. So I'd like to.
At that point in time, Mark Burfing was hired as the director. So that's how Mark got the job. And when Mark was hired, there were 3 other candidates interviewed. And at the time, Mark was with Storm down in the south. And he got the position. So this is all before my time here. It's actually before I even moved to Evergreen. So I wasn't involved in the hiring of Mark, nor was I involved in the offer that went to Ross as well. Now I'm going to finish this thread. Ross Fowler then decided that he did want to take the role within the club because something had fallen through with his indoor facility. And so he was offered a coaching position at the club. And he was offered a position to run the high school program for the club. And he was paid a salary and offered a salary and a contract. After one season, the club had exactly 0 teams in the high school program. And so the club, the board rather, got together, of which Peter Mason was the president, and they met with Ross. And they said, Ross, we can't continue to pay you for a program that does not exist because the club would lose money. So they offered Ross the opportunity to be a coach for a couple of teams at the club and paid him accordingly for coaching each team. Ross refused, demanded that he be paid the amount of his contract, and I don't want to get the numbers completely wrong, but the amount he was demanding was $20,000. $10,000 per season to coach a couple teams. So the board and Mark, as the director, said, we can't pay you this, this is our offer. And Ross did not take the position and he was gone. And from that point on, which is when I moved into the community, Ross, I was hearing that Ross was sending kids to other clubs, telling them to not stay at altitude, and suggesting that they join Rush. We can.
This is nothing.
But I think it's important.
This is totally irrelevant.
I think it's important because
You're
of what we are hearing.
giving us the version of why Ross.
A version.
Yeah, a version.
Well, there's been-
Just really, I would rather get to the facts of what the club is really at this point in time. We're almost.
Can I just respond to one thing he said about this whole thing being about wanting to put Ross in? This is a rumor that has been started maybe by someone you know. That is not the truth. The facts are that this had nothing to do with Ross and everything to do with Mark. There was no plans to.
She doesn't even know your last name.
There are no plans to put anyone in place.
We're married,
All
or
right,
You will see
we're
from
gonna
our
move-
statement.
We're gonna move on. Do you have anything else you want to talk about?
Ross had nothing to do with this.
All right, now, you can address that in your statements. Greg, you're gonna go.
That's,
My name is Greg Hartman. This is my wife, Andrea Hartman. We've been here for 3 years. Our kids in altitude. I have 2 kids, 13-year-old son, and 11-year-old daughter. I've handed out some statements. I'm trying to keep it concise. This letter represents the events leading up to our daughter's removal from the practice field Thursday, October 18th, 2018. Proposes specific actions that should take place to prevent children from suffering the same unwarranted punishment in the future. Our daughter was not removed as well as disciplinary action against her. Rather, the removal seemed to be a message to parents that they should not participate in identifying parent concerns about the director, Mark Murphy, and they should not raise questions about the club financials. Our daughter's removal from the field was accompanied by expulsion of our daughter, our son, and us from AFC. Our greatest concern is that the action taken against our daughter seemed designed to be very public, intended to have a maximum detrimental emotional impact on our daughter. Our teammates witnessed this event and it had an impact on them as well. We do not want other children and families to fear this may happen to them in the future. Here's how it happens. I received an email from a concerned parent asking for other people to share their emails. We went on to forward David and Huerta's emails to 2 Evergreen families that have left AFC. Then we sent them on to 5 other families that are current members of the AFC. That's it. David Huerta had a one-on-one meeting with David Stewart. We were told by Huerta that during this meeting, David Stewart threatened his daughter by asking, "Isn't your daughter going to soon be playing with Coach Peter? Do you know that Peter is a coach in this club? How do you feel Peter will react if you were to know you were asking questions about the leadership of Altitude?" Huerta was angry and responded, "Do not ever threaten my daughter." We were informed by another concerned parent that I checked the Secretary of State's website and found that Altitude FC status had expired. May not solicit since 3/19 because Altitude has not filed a 990 form for a couple of years. This parent followed up with a phone call to the Secretary of State and asked the meaning of this. I was told Altitude should not be accepting money from March 19th on. We wanted to verify this. So we went on the Secretary website, did the same check. It was expired. To the back of this packet. This heightened our concerns because Altitude was still collecting our money. On Wednesday, October 10th, we agreed to attend the scheduled AFC board meeting per the bylaws to witness David Huerta formally request the financials. The board did not show up. Huerta sent his letter request to the AFC board by email the next day. On Saturday, October 13th, while I was watching my daughter's soccer game, David Stewart, AFC board president, approached me on the sideline. I perceived that he was angry and speaking aggressively to me. He was mad that I forwarded emails from David Huerta to other members and asked why I didn't come to him. I responded that I was concerned because I had heard that past board members who had asked about the financials were bullied off the board. Stewart responded, other board members who had brought up concerns like this in the past should have been sued for defamation. He said, "I will give you one last chance to meet with me one-on-one." I said, "I do not need to meet with you, I just want to see the financials. You seem really angry about this, and I'm happy to meet next week." He responded, "Well, we can meet next week. It's probably too late for you and your family in this club." I asked him directly, "Are you threatening me and my family?" He responded by shrugging his shoulders and walking away. He then proceeded down the field and allegedly grilled my son's coach, Scott Rhodes, and another club coach, George Hunt, about how well they knew me, if they'd been talking to me. I followed up the same day with an email to David Stewart requesting to meet over coffee, discuss this, and ask me if his words were truly threats to the entire family. I still have not gotten a response. On Thursday, October 18th, I still not received a response from David Stewart or from the board. I contacted the Colorado Secretary of State by email, filed a complaint about the expired charity status, and asked if I should continue paying membership dues. I also contacted the entire board by email, asking for financials and other information. I finally got it today.
I'm just going to interject right there if I can. I know that is not
He's-
true. I emailed
he's not finished.
both Mr. Huerta and Mr.
Let me
Carthy
finish,
on
please.
October 18th the financials. I did it myself.
I understand. Let's be respectful, let them finish, and you would have the right to come.
We got an email, but it was to terminate us from the club and a cease and desist.
Greg, let's go ahead and finish your statement. We need to make sure we keep this in.
That was Thursday morning. On Thursday afternoon, As my daughter was warming up for practice with her teammates, her coach came over looking upset and told me Director Mark Burton just called her and asked if my daughter was practicing on the field. When he found out she was, he said to her coach that you had to have her removed from the field immediately because she's been kicked out of the club. I don't want my 11-year-old daughter crying off the field while all her teammates watch. My 11-year-old daughter.
Who's your coach? Who's that coach? Peter talks about it.
Jeff Jackson.
And it's not her fault.
I know, I just wonder which one it was. That's it.
Let's finish.
I still go in her room. She's just getting done crying. My 11-year-old daughter. I got in my car and I found an email on my phone with 3 letters. One kicking us out of the club for harming the reputation. One with basic financials, not the my 90s influence that I've been requesting for the last 3 years that I just got today. One from the lawyer about threatening the defamation suit unless we cease and desist. Found out Mark Murphy also allegedly called the coach of David America's daughter, Coach Peter. We've already heard about that. We notified CSA immediately about what happened to our daughter. The CSA took action to address the daughter's participation made it known to altitude. They cannot ban our daughter from playing. Both of my children received the same copy and pasted email apology from David Stewart. They were told in that apology they can resume practicing games. I was later informed by the Suns coach that Mark Burfin called him and said that we as parents are no longer members of this club. The kids can resume practicing games until November. Then they will be permanently removed from the club. Just Saturday, my son came off the field. It was a great game. Almost in tears. I asked him, what's going on? He said, this might be the last game I get to play with my friends. We've been asked to give a list of grievances. Actions taken by Mark Griffin against the children and families who raised concerns about him or FC club operations appear to be blatantly retaliatory and cause emotional harm to these children. Number 2, the AFC board president, David Stewart. Actions were perceived to be aggressive and intimidating against members, brought grievance against the AFC board, and requested disclosure of financial information. As a result, these members lost trust in the AFC board's ability to deal with them impartially and fairly. Failure of the AFC leadership to properly file the financial forms in Colorado's Secretary of State, resulting in AFC's charity status with the state of Colorado becoming expired on March 19th. This heightened our concerns because we had paid our membership dues after March. There's a complete lack of due process and fair, transparent procedures, as well as a lack of well-defined steps for removing members from the AFC. The AFC board presented an unfair representation of our actions and requested financial information from the AFC. For each of these above reasons, we have additional supporting evidence. I don't want to go into all of these. You have the papers. The last one, AFC board inaccurate representation of the Hartman family's actions. In statement to the AFC membership at an emergency AFC board meeting on Sunday, October 21st, the AFC board apologized to our family. We appreciate their willingness to hold that meeting and issue the apology. However, immediately following the apology, the board went on to characterize us as aggressive towards the board. Attached in this packet are the 3 emails we sent to the AFC board members during this time. To follow up to Dave Stewart after he threatened my family. An email from my wife, Andrea, to Jen Bayless on 10/17, letting her know that we respect her. Attached number 4, email to the AFC board requesting the financial information. Other than trying to attend the AFC board meeting that was scheduled for 10:10, which they did not show up for. We made no other attempts to contact AFC board members